Hare Krishna, welcome back to my channel. I am Radhika Piyari. So, as Mahashivratri is on the way, I decided to share with all of you many important aspects about Lord Shiva. So, in this particular video, I will be sharing with all of you the origin, existence, forms, and qualities, and some pastimes of Lord Shiva. Srila Ved Vyas has given all of us Vedic scriptures. Now, there are innumerable Puranas and Upanishads which have been given. Now, this Vedic text or Vedic scriptures are divided into three parts. So, one is the Sattva Puran or Sattva scriptures or Sattva part of the scriptures. Then another is the Rajasic, and the third one is the Tamasic. Now, this doesn't mean that these scriptures which have been shared by Srila Vedvyas becomes of that quality. Everything in the Vedic scriptures which has been mentioned, the whole and sole purpose of it is to finally understand one's position and relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The reason why this categorization has happened is because the spiritual evolution of every living entity is different. Now, every living entity, whoever has come to this material world, the basic reason they have come to this material world is with the tendency to enjoy. And enjoyment for material or selfish reasons. It's because there is a denial of existence of God, and there is a desire of enjoyment independently from God. So this is the reason why the living entities, especially when they come to this material world, there is this false ego which is attached, and the other thing is the tendency to not surrender or to see oneself as Jivera Swarup Hoy Krishnera Nityadas. So a person externally may not know, but internally in the subconscious, they are thinking that they do not want to surrender to Krishna. The tendency is not to be a servant of the Supreme Personality. Because of that tendency, we all are in this material world for some reason or the other. So, when the quality of Rajasa, means passion and ignorance, is predominant, then that denial of the existence and surrender towards the Supreme Personality becomes more thicker or stronger. So, like the Rakshasas or the demons, or the ones who are heavily materialistic, those kind of individuals, it will take them a lot of time to accept the fact that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You may also have heard many Puranic stories where most of the time the demons, they are envious of Vishnu. Now, this is the reason why the way Vedvyas ji has presented the Rajasic and the Rajasic and the Tamasic Puranas, it in such a way that the living entities who are more covered or conditioned, they will see these scriptures and interpret it in the way that Krishna is not, or Vishnu is not the Supreme Personality. That is why in the other Puranas sometimes there is so much confusion that who is the Supreme and who is the most worshipable and everything. But the thing is, once we understand things from the eyes of Srimad Bhagavatam, we will be able to connect all these three Vedic texts, and we will know why things are presented in that manner. Because everything, whatever has been mentioned in the Puranas, it doesn't have any falsity to it. There is some connection, and which we will be talking about how things are connected and how things are seen, but it is just given in an incomplete way, so that for the interpretation of those living entities, they can see as Shiva as supreme or the Shakti as the supreme. So that is what we are going to discuss also here. So today's discussion about Lord Shiva will be majorly from the text of Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, how just we described about the Sattva, Raja, and Tama Puranas or the scriptures, how I shared that how the scriptures are divided into three categories. Now, Srimad Bhagavatam is considered as one of the ripened fruits of the Vedas. So, suppose there's a tree which has all different leaves, different branches, and unripened fruits and everything, but the ripened fruits which is there on that tree, that is Srimad Bhagavatam. And that is why Srimad Bhagavatam is considered as Parasattva, means it is considered as something which is above the mode of goodness also, which is very much transcendental, because it just gives this concentrated form of understanding that what is the ultimate purpose. So Vedvyas ji, when he was presenting this Vedic text, at that time he was very unsatisfied. And he was thinking, why, after writing so much literature and everything, why does he feel so unsatisfied? So when he prayed to his spiritual master, Srila Narad Muni, and Srila Narad Muni actually enlightened him, saying that you have done everything, you have given everything which is connected to the Karma Kanda and all the rules and regulations and basic things, but you have not discussed about the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead along with his devotees. You have not described about the supremacy, the juice, the nectar, the mellow, which is connected to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the relationship which he has with his devotees. And that is why Srila Vyasadeva, he actually compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam. So whatever discussion I am going to have today is going to be majorly from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Brahmaji, Lord Brahma, he has described Lord Krishna in his Brahma Samhita, the prayers which he makes, saying that Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So he says, Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. So he is mentioning that how Govinda, the meaning of Govinda is one who is the protector of the cows. He is also the protector of one's senses. So he is the one who is the primeval Lord. He is the cause of all causes. Karana Karana means he is the cause of all causes. Govindam Adi Purusham. He is the Adi Purush. He is the first Purusha. So Brahmaji is explaining about this thing about Lord Krishna, and in the Vedic text, it is mentioned that how the spiritual world, which is considered as a 3/4 part of the creation, which is kind of unmanifested because something which has always been existing, that spiritual world, the topmost planet of that spiritual world is Goloka Vrindavan. Now, in Goloka Vrindavan, Lord Shri Krishna and his associates and Srimati Radharani, they eternally reside and enact the pastimes. Many times there is this misunderstanding also that Lord Krishna has come from Vishnu, and it is very much predominant in India, especially, that how Lord Shri Krishna is actually an expansion of Vishnu. So Srila Prabhupada explains to us that how Lord Shri Krishna is the original Vishnu. Now, why is that? If we can connect this with an example, an owner of multiple companies, he comes to one of his offices and there is a director. Director is seen by everyone every day, but the owner, the main owner, the head, he won't come every day. So it's many times, many of the workers and even the clerks and the peons, they do not recognize that he is the owner. They may think that he is some influential person, but not know that this person is actually the owner. So similarly, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he appears once in the day of Brahmaji. So there's in one day of Brahmaji, there are 14 Manus who appear. So in this 14th Manu, we are very fortunate that we are in that Manvantar, which is Vaivasvata Manu's time period, and Shri Krishna has appeared as he is. So Lord Shri Krishna, as per the Vedic text, is described as that how all the expansions are all present in him. They all come together when Lord Shri Krishna appear. So that is why all the forms, all the expansions, all the incarnation, all the potencies, all the qualities are all in fullness in Lord Shri Krishna. So now after Lord Shri Krishna, when creation happens, like how this expansion takes place and how Lord Shiva comes is in this manner. So Lord Shri Krishna, when he expands, the first expansion what Lord Shri Krishna takes is Balram. Now Shri Balramji, like how Shri Krishna is said to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, means Bhagavan, similar way, Balramji, being the first expansion of Krishna, he is known as the Supreme Personality of Servitude. So the difference between both Krishna and Balram is this, that one is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the other one is the Supreme Personality but in the form of servitude, means seva. So the entire purpose of Balramji to come, even though we have seen in the past time that how Balramji comes as an elder brother, or as Lakshmana he comes as a younger brother, but his whole and sole purpose is to come and assist and serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when Balramji comes, he actually expands. Now from Balramji, all the expansion starts happening. So that is why when in Goloka, in Gokula Vrindavan, like which happened on this earthly planet, when Krishna is present there, enjoying with the gopis, enjoying the pastimes with the cowherd boys, it's actually Krishna. But as soon as Krishna starts fighting with the demons, that expansion turns into Vasudev Krishna. And that is why when even Krishna left Vrindavan, he actually did not leave Vrindavan. It was actually Vasudev Krishna who left Vrindavan and went and fought to with the demons and established the Dharma. So Lord Shri Krishna never really leaves Vrindavan. So similar way, Balramji, when he expands himself, quadruple expansion which happens, which is called Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and Vasudev. Now, this Sankarshana is the same which is also known as Ananta Shesha, we call. So, this Sankarshana is actually one of that forms where Lord is actually, Balramji in that expansion is holding the entire material creation, that are in unlimited hoods of the snake form. He is in that form of the serpent having unlimited hoods, and he's holding on to the material, entire material creation. So, what happens here is that these four expansions, they are present in all the Vaikuntha planets. Now, what I'm talking about is only the spiritual world first. I'm not talking about this universe. What I'm sharing is that how from Krishna, Balramji happens, from Balram, this quadruple expansion happens. Then there is Goloka Dham, there is Mathura Dham, there is Dwarka Dham, Mathura Dham, Ayodhya Dham, Aishwarya Dham, where Sri Lakshmi, Mahalakshmi resides with Vishnu. Then there is all these Vaikuntha, small mini Vaikuntha planets. Okay, this Vaikuntha planets, they are the different Leela avatars and the Manvantara avatars of the Lord, like Matsya, Kurma, Narsingadev. So there also these quadruple expansions are residing. These expansions happen, and there are different, all these expansions reside eternally in those separate spiritual like Vaikuntha planets also. Now, when the passing of the Vaikuntha planets happen at the entrance of the spiritual world. So at the entrance of the spiritual world, there is Sadashiva. Now, this Sadashiva is different than the Shiva which is in the material universe. Now, this Sadashiva is the prime form of Shiva from which all the Rudra incarnations take place. Now, this Sadashiva is eternally residing with Mother Parvati in the eternal Kailash. Now, you try to connect us that you have seen even in Vrindavan, there is Gopeshwar Mahadev who is guarding the Ras Leela. There are some temples also you'll see of Krishna where or of Vishnu where there is always Lord Shiva guarding. Like even in Orissa, you'll see there's always this thing where Lord Shiva is always guarding. This is not something very accidental. It always has happened like that. That Lord Shiva is always guarding the place of the place where Lord Vishnu resides. So now this is a part of the spiritual world. So Lord Shiva is actually at the entrance of the spiritual universe. Now, if why I'm saying this is because there's material universe, there is spiritual universe. So when the spiritual universe and between the material universe, there is something called Brahma Jyoti. Now, this Brahma Jyoti is actually the effulgence of the Lord. It's nothing but the effulgence of the Lord. Now, there are three different levels of self-realizations. So, one is the Paramatma, one is the Brahman realization, one is the Paramatma realization, and the last one is the Bhagavan realization, to see from the covering of this Paramatma and the Brahman effulgence to see the Supreme Personality of God as it is. So, this Brahman effulgence or the Brahman realization is actually the Brahma Jyoti. Now, many times in the Puranas, like the Shiva Puran and everywhere, it's actually mentioned that how there is nothing above Lord Shiva. So above that light, then there is that Shiva, which is like completely dark. And they talk about all these things. It's because the existence in those Puran does not go above Sadashiva. It does not go above Shiva. So that is why many times there is this kind of difference of opinion which is said, but it's not that it is something wrong, but it is just a half information which has been given until that part only what the individual can understand. So then this Brahman effulgence which is there, or the Brahma Jyoti which is there, the living entities who have understood the Sat feature, means the truth, which is the eternal, like eternity feature of the Lord, they actually go there. But the thing is, they are in the dormant state because there is no relationship, there is no connection of the understanding the personal form. It's just kind of in impersonal or a Brahman, like everything is light. That kind of information is there. So because of this, what happens is that living entity are peaceful there. They are there for like innumerable millions, trillions of lifetimes, but they are just in the dormant state. And because the nature of the living entity is to be active, they kind of completely, they have to come down, and that's how from Brahman effulgence, if they ever come down, then they will again come down to take the form of Brahma, because they are so pious. They are so pious because they are over there. But the thing, it's kind of called as a spiritual suicide also, because one leaves their existence, the individual identity, and then they try to mix with the light, but which never happens, because every living entity is an individual soul. So now this Brahman effulgence, where the living entities are in the dormant state, Lord Shiva above that is guarding, so that these living entities, they do not enter the spiritual world. Because why? It's not because the reason why is because they are not eligible, because they have not understood their relationship with the Supreme Personality of God. If one cannot enter the spiritual world, if there is no tinge of bhakti in them, if there is no affection of relationship or mellow, then they cannot enter the spiritual world. And that is why Lord Shiva is guarding that particular universe. So now, after that, what happens is that after the Brahma Jyoti, And then starts the Mahatattva. Now this Mahatattva is actually the beginning of the, it is the that's round thing where there is complete dark, it's complete dark, and that darkness is actually covered by a different amount of layers. So in this Mahatattva, it starts with the Viraja river, which is also known as the Karana ocean, which is the Karano Dakshai ocean. Now this Karana means it's called the causal ocean, where all the causes begin. Manifestation of the material things happens based on the tattvas happen. The spiritual world is known as unmanifested, because why? Is because it doesn't manifest and then becomes destroyed. It's because it's eternally existing. But the material world is actually temporary, even though it is eternally happening. There is destruction, there is creation, there is destruction, there is creation of this material universes, but it is temporary because it keeps on getting destroyed and keeps on getting existing. There are three expansions of the Supreme Lord which happens in this material world, which are not there in the spiritual world. And these three expansions are actually temporary as well. Even though it is spiritual, but it is still temporary as well, because it doesn't belong to the spiritual world. Now why? So now how I explained that how the expansion happens, quadruple expansions, all the Vishnu expansions, and then Sadashiva is there. Now through the medium of Sadashiva, the Karano Dakshai Vishnu or Mahavishnu comes to this material world. And that is why some of the scriptures, when they mention that how Shiva is the origin of even Vishnu, it is not wrong. It is not wrong, because that is how it is seen. It is so beautiful to actually understand this. So what happens is that Mahavishnu comes through the medium of Sadashiva. So when Mahavishnu comes, this Mahavishnu, he is, even though Vishnu Tattva, but he is coming, he is lying down on this Karna ocean. This Karna ocean is huge, like big, very big. Actually, this Karna ocean is also called River Viraja, and this is actually the ocean from where Mother Ganga exists. Mother Ganga came into existence, because that river is nothing but Mother Ganga, but it's just given a different name when she enters into a particular universe. So this Viraja river is a causal ocean. So what happens is that in this ocean, the Lord is lying down. Okay, he's just lying down in the form of Mahavishnu. Now, even in our body, when we are sweating, we have pores, we have hair growing out of it. So from that pores, whenever there is some kind of sweat which comes, dirt forms. How does dirt form? Because sweat comes out. So what happens is that everything has a connection. So now the same way, the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of Mahavishnu, he's lying down and he's breathing, like casually, like breathing like us. And then he's breathing, and he's, when through his breathing, that is one breathing creates innumerable universes. Through his exhaling, he is giving out a lot of universes, and then when he is inhaling back that air, then he is taking in all the universes back. And that is just that particular thing which happens, that is actually innumerable, millions, billions, trillions, can't even count that kind of existence. Because what happens is that when the universes are created, and then when it is dissoluted, when it goes back into the body of Mahavishnu, then there comes a time, because even that time when the living entities are going back into the body of Vishnu, then they go into this dormant sleeping state. But it is just a breathing pattern, which is for Karnodakshai or Mahavishnu. Every universe, now every universe has another expansion of Karanodakshai Vishnu or Mahavishnu. It's called Garbhodakshai Vishnu. Now, why it's called the Garbhodakshai Vishnu? Because Garbha means existing into the womb of the universe. Now, this particular Garbhodakshai Vishnu is the form from where Brahmaji comes out from the lotus, like from the navel of the Lord, and in the on the lotus. So that's the Garbhodakshai Vishnu form, which Brahmaji can never see, because he tried to travel down to see and everything, he was not able to. So what happens? The universe is actually filled half with water, where Garbhodakshai Vishnu ji is residing with Lakshmi Devi, and then the lotus goes out, and then Brahmaji gets all enlightenment. Now Brahmaji is there after this Garbhodakshai Vishnu, this Garbha. That's why in the Shakti Purans or the Rajasic, which is especially the Shakti scriptures, or where Devi ji is considered as to be the supreme, that is why it's considered that Durga is the supreme, and everything like Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh comes from it, because universe is the other name for universe. This material universe is Prakriti, and Prakriti is actually the wife of Lord Shiva, means she is Durga. That is why Parvati Devi's expansion happens in the form of Durga Devi or Kali Devi, because she is the material creation. She is a material universe. From the Garbhodakshai Vishnu comes out Brahmaji. Then Brahmaji uses the mode of passion, and he starts making the universe, making the different creations. Now from there, the Garbhodakshai Vishnu expands in the form of Kshirodakshai Vishnu. Now, Kshirodakshai Vishnu comes, then the Rudra form, like Lord Shiva and Parvati from that particular universe exists, and Brahmaji is there. So now this Kshirodakshai Vishnu is the Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, which we call it. So the only Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh we know is from one universe. There is Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh in another universes also. Now this Kshirodakshai form of the Lord is actually the Paramatma incarnation. So in one sense, if we will see this Kshirodakshai, Garbhodakshai, Karanodakshai, they all come through the medium of Balram and then Sadashiva, and like that they come. So that is why what happens when Kshirodakshai Vishnu comes, he lies in everyone's heart as Paramatma. He is the Lord when there is discrepancies in the material world and the demigods, they run to Lord Brahmaji. If he is able to solve it, then yes, but if he is not able to, then they go to the Shweta ocean, the Shweta Dvipa, which is called the milk ocean, and they go there and pray. The Purusha Shukta prayers which has been made, they go actually there to make that prayer, and not all the demigods are able to see him. Actually it is actually not all the demigods are able to see him. It's only Brahmaji who make the prayer, and then he hears the voice of the Lord. So what happens is that they go to the shore of Shwetadipa and they pray. And that's how they are able to get the help. And Lord says that he'll come. Like during the time when Kamsa was creating all this havoc, that's when the Kshirodakshai form of the Lord actually said this, that he'll be coming, incarnating and everything. So this is at one of the halo, like one of the place of the material universe. The Vishnu form is there with Lakshmi Devi, and there Kshirodakshai form is there. And then there is Lord Shiva as a Rudra. So the Sadashiva is like the main, but then Sadashiva also expands into Rudra. So there is Sadashiva. That's why he's called as gods of the demigods, because he's the god of all, head of all the demigods. So that's why Lord Shiva comes there. He's into Kailasha there, the Kailasha which we see here on the Himalayas, like that. It's a different dimension still, but that's the Kailasha where Lord Shiva is residing. So that is why this entire one universe is controlled by the Shakti or Durga Devi. It's called actually Maya, Mahamaya. So it's controlled by her, and that is why this entire universe is called Garbha. And if you see the Garbh, in the Garbh resides Garbhodakshai Vishnu. In the Shakti Purana or the Devi Purana, it's mentioned that how Durga is the cause of all causes. She is the supreme. So you have to, understand the connection, that how things are connected and how some things are mentioned in certain manners. Now, Lord Shiva, he is there. He is actually, if you see about Lord Shiva, the thing is, uh, it is always said in the scriptures that there is only one Parabrahman, which is true. Krishna is the only one Parabrahman, and from him all the expansions come. So, in one sense, if you will see that it is all coming from that one source, but there becomes a little difference. The thing is, it's the mood. Balramji comes, he is the first expansion, but he becomes the personality, supreme personality of Godhead of servitude. So in the Krishna book, then in the other text, which Srila Prabhupada is explaining to us, that how the difference between Lord Shiva and Vishnu is just of a yogurt and milk. So it's not that it's not about being higher or lower, but it's about understanding the tattva. When milk is converted into yogurt, it's the same, coming from the same source, but yogurt cannot get converted back to milk. And that is the difference. From the 64 qualities of Lord Sri Krishna, there are 78% of the qualities which are present in Lord Brahma. So Lord Brahma is considered as one of the living entities. So that is why the 78% of the qualities are there. And even the living entities like you and I, we also have those 78% of the qualities, but in a smaller extent because we are not empowered. Now, what happens is that with respect to Lord Shiva, the qualities are almost like 84%. So that is why, the reason why it is because Lord Shiva then takes charge of the material universe. Krishna actually, on the other hand, he doesn't deal with it, but Lord Shiva takes charge of it, and he starts getting into the affairs of the material universe. And then from him, the Mahavishnu, then the Garbhodakshai Vishnu and the Kshirodakshai Vishnu comes into also form. Lord Shiva is actually considered as the supermost devotee. He is considered as Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu. So from among the Vaishnavas, among the topmost and the purest devotees of the Lord, Lord Shiva is considered as the topmost of them. Lord Shiva is considered as the one who is the topmost devotee or Vaishnava of the Lord. And why it is because he has displayed this through innumerable ways, that how he is actually the best Vaishnavas. So, describing about Lord Shiva's existence, now we may have seen a lot of pictures of Lord Shiva, but actually the scriptures describe it. Srimad Bhagavatam actually explains about how beautiful Lord Shiva is. He has a very, very beautiful appearance. It's described, if you want to read it, it's described in the Canto 4, the fourth part of the canto, where Lord Shiva is giving instructions, or he's singing or glorifying the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then even in the 12th canto, Markandeya Rishi, when Lord Shiva gives him darshan within his heart, at that time also Lord Shiva's appearance has been described. So Lord Shiva actually has a very glowing, effulgent face. He has a his hue or his complexion is said to be yellowish, like golden. And then Markandeya Rishi mentions that how when Lord Shiva gave him darshan, his hair is actually golden. So he has that kind of appearance in reality. And then he has this Trishul, the Damru. He has this beautiful third eye. He has the moon and Ganga sits on the tiger skin. Now I will discuss with you some parts, like some of the features and how it represents, everything represents some spiritual aspect to it. So the third eye which has been there of Lord Shiva, it actually denotes spiritual awakening. A living entity should actually go through spiritual awakening in order to understand the relationship with Krishna or God. Now after that comes the snake. Now if you see the snake which is around Lord Shiva's neck, it's actually always tamed, doesn't make any movements. You know how the nature of the snakes are, they're kind of very much agitated, and they get agitated easily as well. But the snake which is coiled around the neck of Lord Shiva, always tamed, always normal. Why? Is because the snake actually represents ego also. Now every living entity, ego is actually not a bad thing. Ego is means actually individuality. Every living entity has an individual existence. So when Lord Shiva is depicting that how when this ego is being tamed properly, then it can be used in the right manner in the service of God. While knowing one's individuality and then connecting it with in the service of Lord, that particular snake or the ego is tamed. But when this ego is not tamed, then what happens is that it turns into false ego. And this false ego is false identification of the body and false identification of our relationship with the Supreme Lord. So that is why the tamed snake is there. Now there is this moon, half crescent moon. It also actually depicts the peace which Lord Shiva has, his tranquility, his spiritual peace which he has by always remembering the Lord. That is why the moon actually means mana. Moon represents mind. Even in astrology, moon represents mind. And once mind is balanced, it's peaceful when they are spiritually active. That's why people who have very weak moon, they have been told into getting into meditation or spiritual things. It's because that is the nature of the mind, that it is unstable. So Lord Shiva actually holds that moon on crescent moon on his head. Then comes the Mother Ganga. So Mother Ganga is on his locks of hair, and she is there on his head, and she represents the water, the pure water. Ganga water represents purity. So when one's mind is in completely absorbed in the remembrance of Supreme Personality of Godhead and detached from all the material illusions, then that person's mind also becomes pure. That person carries purity and also pours purity to everyone else. So that is one of the things. Then comes the Trishula. Now the Trishula have actually different interpretations, but one of the interpretations of it is also that there are three doshas a living entity goes through: Adi Bhautik, Adi Devik, and Adhyatmik. So Lord Shiva is known to help the living entity to come out of these three doshas by helping them to come closer to Krishna. Now that is one. The other thing is that also these three pointers of the Trishula, they also represent the three modes. Now we all know that Lord Shiva is the husband of Mother Parvati. Mother Parvati's expansion is Durga Devi. Mother Durga is also known as to be consisting of these three modes, which is the Sattva, Raja and Tama. So Lord Shiva is holding that. It means that he has the power to control, he keeps under control these three gunas, which is actually Mother Durga. So that is why this different this Trishul actually represents that. And then comes the Damru or the drum. So he has this drum, you'll see in his hand, and he dances. The thing is, when he plays this Damru and he dances, he's actually doing Kirtana of the Lord, to actually remember the Lord and be in association of devotees and do Kirtana and remember the Lord completely. So that is the, he's always glorifying, always doing kirtan of the Lord. Then he have even Japamala, he's actually chanting, he's always chanting. Whose name is he chanting? He's chanting the names of the Supreme Lord, because he is chanting those on those beads the name, so that he can remember the Supreme Lord. Now there is ashes on his body. The ashes, the reason why it is, so that an individual can see him and actually know that in this material world everything actually ends with death. All the attachments, all the life activities it has been done, it all ends. So it is actually a reminder that with death things end, and then there comes a new beginning. So these are some of the things of the appearance of Lord Shiva, which denotes different things, which is actually very beautiful. Now there is some pastimes, some actually stories which are actually connected to Lord Shiva, and actually it's very, very beautiful. And it actually is one of the, if you have worshipped Lord Shiva in the past, and if you, like for me in my life personally, Lord Shiva is the only one because of whom I came to Krishna consciousness. And I know that anyone who will sincerely worship Lord Shiva, he will be very, very happy and glad to bring you to Krishna. The thing is, we see that how Lord Shiva is always around, like Bhoot, Pisachas, they are always surrounding him. He is always giving, most of the times giving benedictions to the Rakshasas, Asuras, fulfilling living entities' material desires. Now, why? So, the thing is, Lord Shiva is known as Ashutosh. He is easily pleased. He is also known as very, very merciful. He is very, very merciful. Shiva represents auspiciousness. The meaning of Shiva is auspiciousness. So, what happens is that, like, if you will take an example of the Samudra Manthan pastime. Now, in the Samudra Manthan time, what happened? When there was churning of the milk ocean which was going on, one side were the demigods, one side were the demons. Both of them were in the greed of having nectar. Now, when the churning was happening, what was it? The Vasuki snake was there in between, who was being churned, so that the milk ocean can remove, all the poison out and all the other things out. So now, when it's actually the churning was happening, when the churning of Vasuki was happening, all precious things came out, and one demigod took this, one demigod took that, everything they took out. But while these good things were coming out, also came out Amrit, nectar, and also came out halahal wish. Everyone was running for the Amrita, everyone wanted the Amrita, but the wish which came out, because they were churning the Vasuki snake, so with all that friction, the snake had to remove out the poison from his body. So the poison which came out was so dangerous that it could actually kill everyone. So the demigods, the demons, they did not think of Lord Shiva, that oh, we are taking this, let's offer something to Lord Shiva also, he is the gods of the demigods. No, and nor did Lord Shiva wanted to come. He was so detached about it, he didn't care if he would get anything or not. He was so detached about it. But when it came to save the world, to save the time when it was the highest and the greatest need, Lord Shiva came. Now, Lord Shiva did not need any invitation. He knew what was happening. No one actually invited him also, but he came. He performed his duty, his responsibility of actually taking care of the universe, and then he drank the poison, stored it on his throat like Nilkantha, and then he left. When Krishna says that how he is the seed giving father, so it is because of that linga, which is the symbol of Shiva and Parvati. It is because of Lord Shiva that we get this material body and we are able to execute our desires in this material world. It's because of the medium of Shiva we get this material body. So what happens is that Lord Shiva does his things, Lord Shiva performs his duties, and he even gives the material benedictions to everyone, even to those people who are rejected. Lord Shiva has a very merciful quality. Now, if you see the Bhuta, Pisachas, these are all actually abominable living entities. Some have committed suicide, some have done a lot of sins, and they have no place, they don't get any body. So, what happens is that Lord Shiva, because he is very merciful Vaishnava, he takes care of all these living entities. He just keeps them around. And you know what happens? When in the evening, it said every day in the evening, Lord Shiva is actually traveling along with Mother Parvati, and that's why it says that around that time period conception should not happen, conception should not be done, like union should not happen between man and woman, is because sometimes when when a union happens, and if those two individuals are not doing it in the right consciousness or do not have that much pious activity, then some of those bhut or pisachas, their beings are sent into the womb of those two individuals. So that is what also happens. So yes, so Lord Shiva actually takes care of all these bhut and pisachas. Now with respect to the Rakshasas and the demons, what happens? Lord Shiva feels happy about giving them the benediction, but he's not very much attached to them. Lord Shiva, he he will go wherever there is austerity has been done on his name. He'll be easily pleased, and he'll give the boon to this individual or the Rakshasas. But many times what has happened is that because these demons, they can get easily everything from, like, whatever benedictions they want from Lord Shiva, they misuse that particular uh, free will, they misuse that benediction as well. And he knows that, but he still does it because he's very, very merciful, and he knows there is a supreme plan, because when he does that also, uh, it gives an opportunity for the Supreme Personality of Godhead to actually annihilate the demons. Now, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it has been given about the stories of the Prachetas. Prachini Bharishat, he was actually instructed, this actually happened in Satyuga, he was instructed by Lord Brahma to procreate and to increase the population. So, Prachini Bharishat gets married to the daughter of the ocean, and from there comes 10 sons, and they are called the Prachetas. Now, they are very religiously devoted and expert in performing their religious or occupational duties. So the Prachetas, on the instruction of their father, they go to the Himalayas side. So he tells them to go there, and because it's the incidents of the Satyuga, people live longer during that time, 100,000 years. So he asks them to do austerities and penances at least for around 10,000 years. So what these Prachetas do is they go travel towards there, near the close to the Himalayas, the water, and then they go under the water and they start doing the penances. Now once those years are over, then they come out and they are walking, they are going towards the Himalaya side only. Now because Kailasha is the place in the material universe, Kailasha is the place in the Himalayas, so they are walking there. They come across a very, very beautiful, like a reservoir, like a pond near the ocean. They come across that, and it is very beautiful. It has beautiful trees, beautiful fruits, flowers, lotuses, blooming lotuses, very, very attractive birds who sing melodiously. Everything is very beautiful. Many times people think that yes, like Lord Shiva is detached. Yes, he's detached, but the thing is, his abode is very beautiful. It's very, very attractive. It has all the facilities which are needed. It's a beautiful abode. So they come actually close to that, and there's that pond. They're seeing everything, all the blossoming stuff. Actually, they come across Kailasha. So Lord Shiva, along with his associates, they emerge out of the water, and they are glorifying Lord Shiva, and they are glorifying, singing Lord Shiva, and they are beating the drums and singing all the prayers. And there the Pracheta sees Lord Shiva in that golden complexion and with the golden hair, and they offer their obeisances to him. So now when Lord Shiva sees these Prachetas, now these Prachetas are eternally actually the devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna. So when he sees them, he becomes extremely pleased. Now, of course, when someone is a devotee of a higher being like Lord Shiva, someone is a devotee of Lord Shiva, of course he'll be happy with them. But here it is mentioned in the text that how Lord Shiva was extremely happy. He was more happy to receive or to see the Prachetas because they were devoted to the Supreme Personality of God. That's the kind of devotee Lord Shiva is. So as soon as he saw them, he said that you are as worshipable to me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead is. And at the same time, I know that you understand my position also, and you and the devotees, as devotees, you respect me as well. Because Lord Shiva, many times there is all these fights going on that, you know, disregarding Lord Shiva or disregarding Vishnu. There's no point in this, because Lord Shiva and even Lord Krishna, he also worships Shiva. So Tattva, it's not like that. But the thing is, in terms of sweetness, mellow, it is like that. Lord Krishna says to the gopis in Vrindavan how indebted he feels with respect to their love for him, and he doesn't know how to pay that back. And that is why Lord Shri Krishna comes in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to actually experience and give that love of Krishna to everyone. So similar way, whenever like a parent, suppose a teacher is holding the hand of a child and writing something and showing this is A, this is B, that doesn't mean that the parent or the teacher is learning it. No, it is or they are new to it. It is because they are teaching them, so they are reciting it along with that. And Krishna always loves to give credit to his devotees. That's just the beauty of Krishna's love for all of us. And similar way, Lord Shiva always loves to the devotees of Krishna. He sees, because in the scriptures also, in the text, Vedic Vaishnava text, it's mentioned that how when one sees a devotee, one sees a pure devotee, they feel happy. They feel happy, joyful, and they feel all the ecstatic symptoms. When Lord Shiva associates with the devotees of Lord Krishna, he feels happy too, and he feels more affection for them because he knows that his whole purpose is that he wants every living entity to come close to Krishna. So when he saw this Prachetas, they were expert in performing their occupational duties. He said to them that I came here to give you the mercy, to bestow my blessings onto you because you are so devoted to the Supreme Lord. Because what these Prachetas were doing, they were actually executing the Supreme will, the plan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead through Brahmaji. So they wanted to increase the population of this world, and that was actually one of the desire of the Supreme Lord. So Lord Shiva, he starts singing the prayers for Lord Sri Krishna, and this is actually called the prayers where Lord Shiva is actually glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Lord Shiva, when he sings these prayers, he gives these prayers to the Prachetas, and he tells them that if they do these prayers, then they will be able to achieve success in the mission which they want to accomplish. The reason why Lord Shiva ever comes or incarnates is so that the purpose for which the Lord wants him to do the things can be fulfilled. So, like suppose he comes as Shankaracharya in the 5th century, he came as Shankaracharya to give the Mayavad philosophy. Now, there was a need to give the Mayavad philosophy at that time because atheism in the form of Buddhism was very prevalent, and someone needed to come to introduce the Vedas. And Shankaracharya, who was Lord Shiva's incarnation, he came in that form to actually give this knowledge to everyone. Shankaracharya, but at the end of his departure, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam Mudamate. You are a fool, you should actually worship Lord Govinda. In the end, he actually gave that instruction. Even though whatever he preached, it was just to introduce. So, similar way, Lord Shiva appeared, he came down and he instructed the Prachetas so that the purpose of fulfilling the orders of the Supreme Lord is met. So, these are like some of the things about Lord Shiva, which is like very beautiful. Try to have a lot of gratitude for Lord Shiva, because Lord Shiva is one of those devotees who actually, when he deals with the demons also, he is giving them material benediction, but he doesn't find much pleasure in it, because these demons, they come and then they ask for boons and then he gives them and then that's over, and they try to create havoc. Most of the time they create havoc. Every demon, whoever he has given some benediction, they have tried to create havoc. But when he sees that an living entity is sincerely worshipping him, then he grants the blessings of bhakti in them. He gives them the opening of bhakti. He gives them the opportunity that to understand that one should worship, or one should consider Supreme Personality of Godhead as Sri Krishna. So he gives this opportunity to each and everyone. He wants, as a devotee of the Lord, he wants everyone to chant Lord's glories. He wants everyone to come closer to Krishna, and this should be our prayer actually, because the Shiv Lingam, which is represented by which cause of which living entities get the body, through that medium only we should be praying to Lord Shiva to help us, because he is the only one who can actually help us come out of the covering. And when we go up, we're traveling up, then he actually opens the door of the spiritual world for us to enter into the Vaikuntha planets. So I hope you liked this description. I don't know if I have missed anything, but I think days, years will be short to describe what the glories of Lord Shiva. He's so beautiful, he's so wonderful, he's such a great friend, and he's a pure devotee. And always remember him, always thank him, try to establish a connection and a relationship with him, because his presence you will feel. You can feel how potent his presence is as a devotee of the Lord, as also as a very, very powerful being who is actually administering everything, who's giving us everything. So I just hope that on this Mahashivratri, we can become more and more grateful to Lord Shiva, and anyone who has actually come to the Krishna Bhakti or has come to Krishna consciousness because of Lord Shiva, it is actually our greatest duty to be grateful to him and actually ask and seek his blessings to make us more devoted and more genuine in our relationship with Krishna. Thank you so much for watching. Hare Krishna.